Welcome to the realm of intoxicating flavors and head-banging beer reviews.
What's up, everybody? It's the Ginger Yeti, and I'm checking in from home. I went down and checked out a new beer store called the Sprague Mart. Sprague Mart, I don't know how to pronounce it. And while I was there, I was just overwhelmed with the amount of beers they had. They had so many different beers I'd never seen before. A lot of crazy beers from breweries I never heard of that are from Ohio, like Ohio breweries I'd never even heard of before. But also they had some foreign beers. And one of the beers I saw on the shelf was this beer right here. And I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this. I have no idea how to pronounce this. It's Lvivske. It's Ukrainian. Lvivske. I don't know. But it's a Ukrainian beer. It's the first time in my knowledge I've seen a Ukrainian beer. Now this beer is brewed by the Carlsberg group out of the Ukrainian Carlsberg group, Carlsberg Ukraine. So it's kind of part of the evil empire. I guess it's not as bad as AB InBev. And it does say Carlsberg Ukraine on the bottle. There's not a lot I can read on the bottle. It's a porter, 8% alcohol. When you look on Untappd and Beer Advocate, they call it a Baltic porter. Now, the interesting thing is on Beer Advocate, it says it's brewed by a different brewery. And maybe it's just the Ukrainian version of the brewery or the Ukrainian brewery that's owned by Carlsberg. And I'm going to totally butcher this pronunciation too, but it's Lvivska Pivovarnya. Lvivska Pivovarnya. I don't know if I said that right. I'm sorry if I'm butchering this Ukrainian name. I have seen like pivovar other beers. I'm sorry. I know that kind of means beer. So kind of makes sense to me. So this beer was sitting on a shelf where sun was kind of getting to it. It was warm. Hopefully it's still good. It is a brown bottle. However, looking at the bottle, there are no discernible English dates on it or any sort of discernible date code. So I have no idea how old this beer is, how long it sat on the shelf at this beer store. Beer store is really cool, but I did notice there were a lot of things there that have definitely sat on the shelves for a while. I am kind of worried that this has sat on the shelf. But it's the only time I've ever seen Ukrainian beer, so I had to pick it up. I'm just going to get right into it. There's just a nondescript crown here. Doesn't look like there's any rust or anything around the crown. So I guess that's a good sign. It did hiss when I opened it. So on Untappd, it gets a 3.41 with 3.4 thousand check-ins. Beer Advocate, it gets an 82 good. There are only 50 check-ins. Still pouring out with a nice head. And that is I don't know if you can see that. That is a cola-colored ruby red. I mean, that is just a nice cola color. You can kind of almost vaguely see through it. And that's probably about I'll give it about a 17 on the SRMs, but that's just like a ruby red, cola-colored kind of beer with a nice khaki tan head that was fizzy, and it's starting to break up into like big like soap bubble kind of fizzy bubbles, but it's dissipating very slow. Let's see if I can find any discernible sense in it. You know, without fail, I can breathe perfect all day long. As soon as I start trying to do a beer video, it's like my nose closes up, doesn't want to cooperate. So let's try this again. Smell some malt there. Some like dark roasted malt. And that's about it. And it's very faint. And maybe that's due to the age of the beer, because again, I have no idea what the age of the beer is. It came from Ukraine. Who knows how long it took to get here from Ukraine, and then how long it sat on that shelf where it wasn't refrigerated, wasn't protected from the sun. But it smells kind of malty, like dark roasted malt. Hope it tastes malty. It's a Baltic porter. Cheers. It's light-bodied. I expected the body to be heavier than that. It's light body, almost on the verge of being watery. You get some like raisiny notes in there, a little bit of maltiness. Not picking up the 8% at all. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to think about this because it's light body, like watery light body, which is kind of weird for a porter. I expected an 8% porter, but you like have more of a body to it. Get a little bit of that raisininess, some maltiness, and that's about it. It's not super flavorful, but again, I don't know how old this is, and that's the problem with some of these foreign beers you get in the U.S. They don't have like a real discernible date code on there. There's a lot number, and maybe through the lot number I could figure out what the date was, but you don't know how long these things have been sitting on the shelf, how long it took them to get to the U.S., so I don't know how fresh this is. I mean, if this was I think if this was super fresh, a month old, I knew that for a fact, I'd give it a skip. But to be fair to it, and because I don't know how old it is, it doesn't have bad flavors. It's just not what I expect from a Baltic porter, but it could have been, this could be 5 years old for all I know. So I'm going to have to give this a let it play, to give it the benefit of the doubt there. I would definitely try another one. If I saw one of these that had a discernible date code on it and I knew that it was in date, I would buy it again to see how it is fresh. It's not a bad beer by any means. It's just not what I expected from a Baltic porter. I mean, it's not like a sink pour or anything. I'll definitely finish this bottle. And again, if I knew the age on the beer, it would be more helpful to figure out a better idea of what I thought about it. I hope that makes sense. And it's super cool to try a Ukrainian beer. I think this is the first Ukrainian beer I've ever had. I know I probably butchered the name. I just wish that I knew how old it was. It's a shame because it was sitting on a shelf in the sun, so I'm sure that had something to do with it not being stored properly. But it's still a drinkable beer. I hope that review doesn't deter you from liking my video. If it didn't, please let me know down below if you've had any Ukrainian beers. Have you had this beer before? Have you had it fresh? Have you had a fresh version of this beer? Give me that like, give me that subscribe, and as always, man, that stupid air conditioner kicked on again, even though the power's off. It's an adventure, right? And as always, embrace the adventure.